Carlo tonight, my guess, is former detective, and that's, we mentioned him as a detective, Paul Rivera. That's a homicide detective in this, Nueces County?
City of Corpus Christi.
City of Corpus Christi.
The police department.
And actually, I met you many years ago. I was representing somebody on a capital murder case, correct? Many years ago.
Yes, sir.
So, then you went, you were also former, captains for the sheriff department, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I retired from the Corpus Christi Police Department in 1997 on January the 3rd. January the 6th, I jumped over to the sheriff's department as a captain, where I stayed there for 12 years.
And then you were former police chief of Taft, right?
After that, I was offered the job as police chief in Taft, and I was there for almost a year.
And actually, I invited you on because I thought you were running for office again, but I guess I was a little bit late. You were running for what office?
For Constable, Precinct 1.
Okay, and I guess you were unsuccessful in that?
No, I didn't push it that hard.
You didn't campaign real hard?
Maybe the people, citizens didn't go out to vote. And I have no excuses. I had a good experience, and I may run again.
I see. Okay, so tell us about your experience as the former homicide police detective for the city of Corpus Christi. What was your biggest case? I would assume the one that got the most publicity was the Selena case. Is that right?
Well, you can say that, but I had more than that.
Well, let's talk briefly about, because a lot of people are still interested in the murder of Selena. What was your involvement in the murder in that case? Were you the chief investigator? Did you take statements? Who did you interview on that case?
I was a lead detective.
Okay.
In fact, Mark, it happened, that murder happened on a Friday, payday for all the city employees. And it was funny that I could not find anybody to help me. I went to the scene.
So you're inferring that people get their pay, and what do? Go out drinking, or what are you inferring there,
no.
Detective Rivera, former Detective Rivera? What are you inferring?
It was at noon, lunchtime.
Uh-huh.
And where's everybody at lunch? Payday, Friday.
I don't know. Where are they at?
I got to the scene. And,
I'm working myself. I don't get a payday. Yeah. I'm just teasing.
I know. And when I got there, I saw two officers who had stopped at the Days Inn for lunch, and they were notified that somebody had gotten shot. And those were the two officers who were in uniform, Joe Clare and another officer. And I saw them behind a red truck. The ambulance got there at Days Inn on Navigation when I got there.
And that's where Selena was murdered, Days Inn
Yes.
on Navigation.
Yes, sir.
Is it still there, that Days Inn on Navigation?
The Days Inn is still there, yes.
Okay.
So when I saw the ambulance arrive, I didn't know who had gotten shot, but I saw two officers with their guns drawn. So I elected to go and see if they needed any help. So I parked my car between the lobby and the truck where the two officers were talking to a female. Turns out that that female is Yolanda Saliba. So I walked over and I asked one of the officers, "Who's this lady?" I think she shot somebody. Did he know who? The ambulance took off, and an employee of the restaurant came out. He recognized me. He said, "Hey, Paul, Selena got shot." I said, "The singer?" He said, "Yes."
Excuse me.
"Where did she get shot at?" I said, "In the chest. And she's bleeding real bad." So I said, "Oh man, you know." So I was asking for assistance, but I couldn't find anybody, you know. My lieutenant, who's Tim Wilson, was in A&M for a seminar. So I contacted my captain, and took him about 30 minutes to get there. When he got there, I said, "Captain, I need some help here."
Well, what did you need help for? It was Yolanda Saldivar, who was eventually convicted of killing or murdering Selena. Was she not in custody, or was she in custody?
She was inside the truck with a handgun to her head. Okay. This was about noon on a Friday. It was March the 31st. So what I mean about needing some help, I needed to go to the other side of the hotel and round up witnesses, rope off the entire area, and start conducting an investigation as to what occurred. And finally, maybe 30 minutes later, another detective, Rivera, you know him, showed up and I said, man, I need some help. Selena got shot. Go to the hospital and check on her condition. Let me know how she's doing. So in the meantime, I need to go around the hotel and rope off the area and round up some witnesses. But that time, 4 or 5 detectives from another unit showed up, and they assisted me in rounding up witnesses, which were about 4 or 5. They were transported to the police station to be interviewed. And I'm talking about, this was at like 1:30 in the afternoon. So I went to the hospital to check on Selena, only to find out she had died. And
this was in the day before cell phones, right?
yeah.
Yeah, this was in the day before cell phones. Now you would probably just call from the field or something,
Yeah,
but now
right.
it's a whole different world
Yeah.
then.
So man, I met the Selena's family, who were taking it real hard. And that same day, Mark, around 4:30 or 5, Dr. White, the medical examiner, conducted the autopsy, which was kind of unusual because they normally wait a day or two. And they did it the same evening. And
And the results of the autopsy were what? One bullet had killed her? One bullet had killed Selena, correct?
one bullet.
There was only one
She
shot.
got shot. She got shot in the back, upper back, and it exited right here.
The defense of the case was that it was an accidental shooting because she was trying to Yolanda, I believe the defense was, she was holding a gun to her head and then she was going to shoot herself and then the gun went off accidentally. That was a defense by Mr. Doug Tinker, I think, was the lead attorney at that time.
Yeah,
He passed away now.
You're right.
That was a defense.
Yeah.
So, when you interviewed, did you interview Yolanda Saldivar while she had the gun to her head and was threatening suicide?
Well, let me tell you, she got in the truck around noon, 12 o'clock at noon, with a gun to her head. You know what time she got out of the truck alive? At 9:30 p.m. She stayed in that truck 9.5 hours.
So could you hear her speaking while she was in the truck? Could you hear what she
well,
was
she
saying?
never-
Were the windows down? Was there a microphone? Because I think I've heard audio tape somehow of her talking.
Her driver's side window, was a pickup truck,
Yes.
was down. The rest of the windows were tinted, and I could see her head, you know, in the pistol. And I instructed the SWAT team when they got there. I said, if she gets out alive, take her to my office. I need to talk to her. It was at 9:30 p.m. when she came out.
How did they get her out? Did they say? Was
Well,
there a
they-
method, or did she just get tired? Do you remember the specific manner that they used to get Yolanda Saldivar out of that car with the gun and safety, or was it, do you remember?
They came. We summoned some negotiators, which was Officers Acevedo, Larry Young, and I think Officer Valencia. He was a patrolman then. I think they took turns talking to her, negotiating with her to get out of the truck. Eventually they succeeded and she came out. And that's when they took her to my office at 9:30 p.m. And I had to go through the procedures,
Miranda rights, etc. This was in the day before confessions had to be videotaped.
Well,
So this was not a videotaped
no,
confession.
it was a written,
It was all written.
confession.
Written by you, though. I'm just teasing.
Well,
you know.
written by me
Yeah,
as
that's
what she was saying. And of course, she made some corrections and all that, And,
And did she state in that confession that it was an accidental shooting? Is that what she stated?
she didn't say that.
No?
No.
What did she say in the confession? Do you recall?
She said she pulled the trigger and shot at her. She was walking out of the door.
What was her motive in shooting her? Did she say in the statement?
I don't recall, Mark, but they had some kind of a minor argument over her being laid off.
Well, Mark Skirka had been on the show, the prosecuting attorney at that time, who's now the district attorney. And the one thing that I could never say, I could never understand why Selena would go to a disgruntled employee's motel room. And I think the explanation was she was claiming she was raped, but nonetheless, I mean, I've had not real disgruntled employees, I hope, but you know, been practicing many years. Did you ever wonder why she did that? Why Selena did that? I wouldn't have the courage to do that.
My theory is that anger and obsession. Yeah, remember that Yolanda bought that same gun twice. She bought it one time with intentions of killing her because she thought she was going to get fired. And she did not get fired. Selena said, "You're not getting laid off. I'm going to keep you." She returned that gun back to the pawn shop or to the gun shop in San Antonio. But later, when she smelled that she was going to get laid off, she went and bought the same gun, the .38.
So you're inferring that you felt that it was a purposeful shooting. It was not an accidental shooting. She murdered Selena in cold blood, shot her in the back.
I think those were her intentions. Why did she buy the gun twice? Why did she come to court for the second time? And of course, it's a more complicated story than what people know.
Well, tell us something that's complicated about it that we don't know about.
Well, you know, it was on the night before, which was a Thursday. She came in from San Antonio. Yolanda came in from San Antonio, checked into the hotel, the Days Inn. She called Selena at home and told her, "Selena, I got your paperwork that you need." See, Yolanda was doing some kind of business for Selena in Mexico, and Selena needed those papers for income tax purposes. So that night, when Yolanda called Selena at home, Selena and her husband Chris drove to the Days Inn in Chris's truck. He stayed in the truck. Selena goes inside the room and retrieves the paperwork that she needed. So they go back home, sitting in Molina. When they got home, Selena looked at the paperwork. She said, "You know, Chris, she didn't give me all the paperwork that I needed. I'm still short on some papers, some records." So Selena calls Yolanda that night, which was Thursday night. So, "Yolanda, I'm missing some paperwork that you didn't give me." He said, "Well, you know what? You're right. Come back tomorrow," which was Friday. It just so happened that Chris went fishing that night.
Chris was Yolanda's...
No, Selena's husband.
Selena's husband, of course,
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Chris went fishing and came back real late at night. So in the morning, which was Friday, Selena said, "I need to go to the Days Inn and recover the rest of the paperwork that Yolanda's got." But Chris had parked his pickup truck behind Selena's car. And he was getting some sleep because he'd been fishing all night. So Selena, instead of taking her car, she drove Chris' pickup truck to go to the hotel. So she goes to the hotel, I would say about 10 o'clock at night in the morning, or maybe a little bit earlier. And Yolanda comes out with some allegation that she had been raped. She had been raped in Mexico. And Selena said, "Well, I need to take her to the hospital." So Selena drove her to the hospital here on Alameda and Texan Trail.
Yeah, I don't remember, is that doctor's hospital? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
anyway, Yolanda was examined, and I'm talking around 11 o'clock in the morning, you know, and the nurses pulled Selena to the side, said, hey, this lady she didn't get raped. She's making it up. And those scratches that she's got, those are self-inflicted. She did it herself. So Selena takes Yolanda back to the hotel. By that time, Selena already made up her mind that she's going to lay her off. You know, false accusations about the rape and all that stuff. They go inside the room 158, and that's when the shooting occurred. Well, Selena was going to give Yolanda a ring which had an egg-shaped ring that Yolanda had given Selena for her birthday or something. So Selena was going to give her that ring back, and I think that made Yolanda mad, you know. Besides telling her that she was going to get laid off. That's when Yolanda pulled out the gun, and Selena started walking towards the door, and Yolanda fired one shot, hit her in the back. There was blood splattered on the side of the door as she was walking up. At that point, Selena ran. She dropped keys. She dropped, I think, 1 or 2 cell phones, her purse, and those records that she had recovered. She ran 392 feet to the lobby, which is a little over a football field that she ran. And I followed the blood trail, heavy blood trail, as she was bleeding. So she got to the lobby and collapsed. I think she was able to mumble something to the clerks. She collapsed, and I'm saying that she died there, you know. Ambulance got there and took her to the hospital where she was declared dead. And to me, Mark, that case still haunts me, because I started getting calls from New York, from news media, Florida, California, from Colombia, and it was tough, you know. And then I had to prepare the case. It was on a Friday. By Monday, I filed the case with Carlos Valdez.
Carlos Valdez was the district attorney at that time.
Yes. And we had a press conference April the 3rd, Monday, in which lots of people came. I'm talking about news people from Colombia, from New York, from Florida, from Mexico, from all over. And this was in April 3rd.
And then, of course, obviously you testified. Did you testify at the trial of Yolanda Saldivar, who was eventually convicted?
Well, not only that, we had pre-trials in between the shooting.
Right. Right. Pre-trials, in other words, maybe the defendants wanted to keep out maybe her confession, Yolanda's confession. I would assume that would have been done, even though it may have been very difficult.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. And I went through a lot of pressure, you know. I think we had 2 pre-trials, one for change of venue, which they moved the case to Houston.
Oh, they did do that. I've forgotten that. Yeah.
And there was a lot of discrepancies that Tinker attacked me pretty hard, you know.
Well, you know, we all do that.
I know, and
Sometimes,
You know what,
depends
Mark?
if. I'm sorry.
You know what, Mark? I learned to understand that.
Yeah, and
You
of
know.
course Tinker was he was a defense attorney for defense attorney for Yolanda Saldivar,
Well, there
who
was-
is still in prison.
There was four defense
I know. I
attorneys.
didn't quite. That was too many. I thought
Yeah,
that doesn't.
it's a female
That's a little
attorney.
bit of a circus, you know.
It was a female attorney, and a guy named some guy in Houston,
Well, you may need local counsel if
and
you're not.
Arnold Garcia. one
Yeah,
of them.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there. I think that's a bit much. But at any rate, and I think Yolanda Saldivar still in prison.
Yolanda will be eligible for parole in 2026.
2026. This is 2012. 14 years from now.
And that doesn't mean she's going to come out, because you're going to get the DA and the family.
Well, usually
Yeah.
it'd be rare for her to come out.
Yeah.
But
I spent 3 weeks in Houston doing the
Yes.
trial, and I'm telling you, torture my part, because you know how it is. The defense attorney, they tear you up, and
well, I will tell you in that particular case. Just talking, I don't know how they tear you up, because she had the gun. She admitted it. Basically, she shot the gun. The only defense was whether or not it was an accident. And I got to tell you, that wasn't the greatest defense, was it?
well,
I mean, that was all they had. But I mean, I pointed the gun, it went off accidentally. Well, and I think Mr. Tinker's argument that I heard a little bit of was, this isn't murder, which I think he was trying to say it was some sort of manslaughter or negligent manslaughter or something like that. But he didn't charge, as I recall, you may remember it better than me, I don't follow other people's cases too much. He didn't charge the jury with negligent manslaughter, so they or whatever it would be, the lesser included offense, so they couldn't have come up with that. He was trying to get an out-and-out acquittal.
yeah,
Well, they weren't going to acquit her.
yeah,
I mean, I disagreed with that. I disagreed with that approach, because the chances of them acquitting, you've got a young, attractive victim, right?
yeah.
They're not going to acquit. That may be the lesser included offense, but at any rate, that was his decision. That's how the case was tried,
Well, also, the ballistic officer, and I can't think of his name, he did a great job.
Did he?
Yeah. He showed the jury how you shoot a gun. I mean, you had to pull the trigger. It doesn't
Right.
It doesn't go off by itself.
What was it? Did it have a light trigger? Do you remember? Like, did it have a light force on the trigger? Was that part of the defense? Well, it could have went off because it was a light trigger pull,
No.
or was it? It wasn't.
No.
And then what are the odds somebody's running away, and you went like that, and they're that far? How far away was it? Do you remember how far away it was when Selena got
Into
shot?
the door.
Okay, so it wasn't a lot of feet. So it could have been. It could have been that she wasn't aiming and just shot them. That was
Yeah.
likely, maybe, because it was
Or-
only
or-
4.
or-
You're
or
indicating
maybe
4
closer.
foot.
Maybe
So
closer.
it was very close.
Yeah. But the fact that Yolanda bought the gun twice made her look bad.
Mhm.
You know.
They made a big deal. The prosecution made a big deal about the fact that Yolanda Saldivar was a nurse and didn't call 911. If it was an accident or something, she would have tried to get her help.
I don't think she called.
No, I don't think she did either. Well, that was one of your bigger cases, of course, and I don't know. Have you
Well-
not like let's just I got this question. I'm kind of curious. Do any of these people who you've prosecuted through the years, like Yolanda Saldivar or someone else who you've been, who you've been a detective on, do they ever contact you after they've been convicted, or one, like let's say the ones that have been convicted, they ever contact you and say anything?
Contact me.
Yeah.
Well, I had 9 people on death row. And the one that bothered me a lot was the one with Freddie Webb.
Who is Freddie Webb? What did he do?
Freddie Webb robbed the Ship Ahoy. And he
And
took,
Ship Ahoy was I don't think Ship Ahoy is open anymore.
No, they tore
For-
down the building.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so what did he do? Was it armed robbery, and then he shot somebody when he went in there? What occurred?
What happened, he followed the manager, a female manager, and her husband to a car wash and kidnapped both of them. He took her back to the hotel, to the restaurant, and tied her up and took the money from the safe. And then he took her husband to the city dump and killed him. Him and Larry Alford, another friend of his. And that case, I did a lot of work on legwork. Finally got him, and he got the death penalty. And the reason I say that it hurt me to see him die because I knew his mother very well. She was a crossing guard, nice lady. And also the fact that I knew him when he was growing up.
Oh, I see. So you're really involved then with him. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it bothered you that he
was about 10 years old when I first met him, you know. He lived in the same neighborhood that I did. I was a policeman already.
Well, why did he kill that man? Was he just very evil, a mean-spirited act? Was he on drugs?
He was on drugs.
He was on drugs when he did it.
Yeah. Yeah, he did other robberies, you know, him and his friend, Larry Alford. And that kind of bothered me when he got executed, you know.
Did you go to the execution?
No, I was invited, but I never did go to those executions, you know.
You never saw someone be executed?
No. I did not want to see him either, you know.
And you were in fact invited to go see these people being executed if you're a lead detective?
I didn't want to go see him, no. I got invited to go. The other one, Larry Alford, no, Jamal Arnold.
And that one bothered you too, or that one was a big case too?
Jamal Arnold, he killed a girl there on Leopard Street, across the street from the courthouse, on a Friday at noon, while it was kind of raining, and he made her get on her knees and shot her top of the head, killed her. And it took me several years to clear that case because Grant Jones got a letter from him.
Was Grant Jones the district attorney at that time?
Yes.
So Grant Jones got a letter from Jamar Arnold saying what?
He got just a note in the mail. Jamar Arnold was in the penitentiary in California, but he tried to pull a fast one. You know, he wrote a note to Grant Jones saying, "I know who the killer is on this girl at the jewelry store." And Grant, one day I went to the court. I said, "Hey, Paul, I got this note that I need to show you." He said, "May be nothing. You can throw it away." I looked at it, and he mentioned a name that I was looking for. Jamar mentioned a name. He said, "I know who this man is." I said, "Grant, this is good information." The next day, I'm on my way to California. Myself and Texas Ranger Robert Garza, and we obtained about a 4-page confession. Went 3 times to California on that case. I cleared 2 bank robberies in Vegas and attempted murder in San Diego, California through his confessions. And finally, I brought him back.
Why did he confess? Because he was trying to prevent another sentence? Because he had a guilty conscience? What did he express to you was his reason for?
I think maybe he wanted money, which I gave him some money.
How much money did you give him?
I gave him $500 a butt.
Where did you get the money from? Out of your wallet? Say, "Oh, here's the money." Did you go to your bosses and say, "Oh, this guy wants some money for the confession"?
But listen, he tried to trick me. He said, "I know."
Some of those guys are pretty con.
He said,
They're
"I know,
cons, you know.
I know who this killer is." So I said, "Well, tell me about it." He said, "What do you need to know?" "Well, I need to know where was this murder at? It's across the street from the courthouse. what did the girl look like? White girl wearing a green dress. This. What type of weather was it? It was raining. Friday at noon. And I told my Ranger Garza, I said, you know what, Robert? You know who the killer is? It's going to be him. He knows too much about this killing.
So you knew pretty much it.
He knew a lot. I mean, he knew things that nobody would know unless you're the killer. So I told Robert, I said, we need, we need to confront him and tell him that he's a suspect. And we did. I said, Jamar, I think that you are the killer. He said, yes.
Let me ask you this before I forget. Did Jamar Arnold ever express sorrow for doing that murder?
No.
Was he on drugs? Do you know? Do you recall?
I really don't know, Mark, if he was. I'm assuming he was on drugs.
And did Freddie Webb, who murdered the man at the Ship Ahoy, the owner, I think, of the Ship Ahoy, did he ever express?
She was an employee.
He was an employee?
The girl was.
The girl was.
Yeah.
Did Freddie Webb ever express sorrow?
Yes.
He did, because
Yes.
he was on drugs, I guess.
When I interviewed him, he expressed.
Okay. And Yolanda Saldivar, did she ever? I don't think she ever expressed any sorrow.
Who's that?
Yolanda Saldivar.
No.
She never seemed to be
No.
sorry, did she?
No.
I think maybe she even thought she was a victim, but
You know, normally people like that, they break down, they start crying, you know,
right.
even men. But Yolanda didn't show any emotions at all. Remorse, no. I had guys who were involved in killing their wives, or and they break down like a little baby, you know, crying. But Yolanda, Jamar Arnold, no remorse. And I don't know. I think I worked, Mark, around 200 murders.
Yeah, and when I was looking through this, some of these cases I wasn't familiar with. Who's Carlos? Is there a Carlos de Luna's case you were involved in?
Actually, I wasn't.
No?
No, but somebody made allegations that I was a detective, and I was not.
You weren't
Remember
involved?
Olivia Escobedo,
I don't.
detective? She was the one that worked that case.
Oh, okay. Was it the Luna case controversial or something?
What happened?
It says here on this online article, it states Hernandez escaped punishment for one crime twice. In 1979, Corpus Christi detective Eddie Garza and his partner Paul Rivera, two most celebrated Corpus Christi detectives of their generation, arrested Hernandez for killing Dalia Sauceda in her custom model Happy Time van.
That is right.
Is that right?
Yes. In fact, Carlos Hernandez lived in this neighborhood.
Here
Yeah.
on Elizabeth Street, towards around here.
He lived on Laredo Street, King Street, right at the corner house. Carlos Hernandez killed another girl, the one you just said, Dalia Sauceda. He had nothing to do with the De Luna murder. I think De Luna found that information to try to get out of it, and he did. Well, no, he
It says
got,
Hernandez talked prosecutor Kenneth Boterry into releasing him and going into another man who was eventually acquitted. Garza and Rivera arrested Hernandez for the Sauceda killing again in '86 after new information surfaced. And then the charges were dropped on that case because some
Yeah.
key information was lost or
it's a
something.
long story of why the charges were dropped.
It says here that key evidence had somehow been misplaced with the DA's
It was
office.
a good case, Mark, but what happened, another guy had confessed to the same murder, but that guy had mental problems.
Does that happen very often where somebody else confesses to a murder and they're not guilty at all?
I had to.
Why do they do that? The one had mental problems. Did the other man have mental problems also?
No. The other one was just afraid. And I told him, take me to the crime scene where you, okay. Got him in the car, So which way do I go? This way. Now which way? He didn't know where to go. I said, listen, are you telling me the truth? He said, no. Why did you confess to this? Because your partner, who was, you probably know him, I'm not going to mention his name, he scared me. He said, and I made it up. And I think that was Carlos Hernandez.
Well, many of these murders that you were involved in, it seems like there were a few, including one that I handled many years ago with you, where there were two persons, where I was defending one of two persons that were accused. It seems like some of the murders, there's oftentimes two people involved. Is that right?
Yeah, two people. Sometimes more than that. But most of the time it's one person. You know.
So you said you never wanted to go to see one of these executions of these men or women who were prosecuted for capital murder in particular. What do you think? You think capital punishment's a good thing? Do you think it deters crime? Have you formed an opinion? Something you don't think about it? You're just doing your job? What do you think?
Personally, Mark, I don't like the death penalty. I don't think that the state accomplishes anything by killing a criminal. Probably it's a lot better if you incarcerate him and keep him locked up forever, you know. But I'm not crazy about the fact that these guys are getting executed.
I see. Well, that's an interesting take. I don't know. Let me see who else we have here. There was what other high-profile cases? I saw, you know, I don't know if I've seen any other ones online or not.
Well, I had like 200 murders.
Pardon me?
I had about 200 murders.
Of those cases, which one was the most factually what was the most interesting one, you think?
One time, there was a drive-by on Shoreline, Ocean Drive.
When you say drive-by, you mean somebody was going down the street, somebody else went by and shot them and killed them?
4600 block of Ocean Drive.
Okay.
I remember it was a red car that drove by, and there was a group of people having a party across the street from the 4600 building. It's a vacant lot. They were having a party, and this guy shot and killed this guy at random. And what happened, the guy died. And myself and Sergeant Lee, Ralph Lee, you know Ralph Lee, we got assigned the case. And some officer was at a 7-Eleven store at by the courthouse, and he overheard somebody say, "Hey, I heard the thing on the radio about you're looking for a red car. Said those guys are out there on Shoreline. I think those are the guys that did the shooting." So we went looking for that car, and finally we tracked down the car. And it was on a Sunday. We tracked down every individual who was the little group. They were transvestite guys, and we put them through the mill. Where one guy wanted to cop out to something he didn't do. And like I said, it was on a Sunday, and I told Ralph Lee, I said, let's go to the office and regroup, man. I said, we're not getting nowhere, you know. We went to the office, Mark, and one of the secretaries, you know, Sunday, she called me to my office. She said, "Paul, there's a guy, he wants to talk to you all." So what does he want? I said, "Well, something about a murder." Send him back here. And look at this. All the legwork we had done. This guy comes in, about 25 years old. He said, I need to talk to you guys about my brother. He's the one that shot that guy last night at the Ocean Drive. I said, where's your brother? He said, I know where he's at. He said, I got the gun. And where's the car? He said, they're on Clemmer Street. Can you believe that?
Why did he do it?
Just crazy. They were just riding around drinking, and they drove out to Ocean Drive, and he pulled the gun and shot at the group.
Excuse me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I had a little coughing fit. So, Detective Rivera was telling us about a unusual transvestite murder there on Shoreline, right?
Yes.
And you were stating before, like I had a little break there regarding that the brother of the murderer actually kind of told on the brother that
came
did
in
the
out of
murder.
that clear blue sky and solved that case for us.
Why did the brother do it just because they thought that was the right thing to do, the righteous thing to do? Why do you think he did that?
I think that's it bothered him.
Bothered him?
And you don't find too many people like that, Mark. You know, and he...
No, it's a judgment call regarding whether or not you're going to turn one of your relatives in for something like murder, you know.
He gave us a gun, showed us where the car was, and...
And this was just a random act. In other words, anybody, God forbid, could have been going down Ocean Drive and gotten shot by one of these people.
Yeah. And the first car that the witness had talked to an officer about, the red car, was not the same car. Same color, but it was not the same car that we were looking for.
I see.
Yeah.
So that
anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is that all that work we did, you know, and then here comes a brother and solves that case for us, you know. Yeah.
Well, let's say this. You also worked at as a captain of the sheriff's department. What other interesting things about Corpus Christi crime, either high-profile cases or drug cases, do you think are kind of interesting?
I had so many cases, Mark.
Did you work in drugs too, or in busting people for?
I worked drugs for a very short time, and personally, I didn't like it. You know, I don't like hunting informants and stuff like that. No. I had a better time, even though it was rough working homicides. You know, let me tell you about a case that in New York, I had worked a case here, a real bad beating that happened here in Corpus at the yacht club. I mean, it didn't happen there. The guy was a cook at the yacht club. Anyway, he got beat up and robbed, and he was in ICU for about a week, and came out, and I found the guy who beat him up, but the victim did not want to file, so I cut loose the suspect, who was from New York. I said, you go back to New York, man, finish school and be somebody. He left. About 2 months later, Mark, got a teletype from New York. Possibly in your city, Corpus Christi, suspect so-and-so may be in your city. He may be involved in a double homicide. The Newburgh, New York. You know what? I found the guy.
So the guy who got beat up near the yacht club actually went to New York and committed a murder?
No. He didn't want to file. He didn't want to file. So I dismissed the case. Mm-hmm. The suspect, I cut him loose from the jail. He went back to New York. So he did something over there. They were looking for him. Mm-hmm. I found the guy. It so happened he had half a marijuana cigarette in his pocket. And I booked him on that, and I talked to him about the double murder. And he he confessed to the double murder. He killed his stepfather and his mother. So I called the detectives over there. I said, "You what?" I said, "I got a confession from." They were here the next day. So I went to New York to testify twice, the pre-trial and the real trial. He got convicted, got 55 years. But that was one of the most interesting cases that I had, you know, as far as New York, you know.
So you got to travel a fair amount because you were talking about going to California regarding Jamar Arnold, etc.
Well, and I went to Las Vegas because of his confession that he robbed 2 banks in Vegas, and we cleared those.
Had he killed anybody else? Returning back to Jamar Arnold, who we spoke about previously, had he killed anybody else that you know of other than this person in Corpus Christi at the?
Did he kill somebody?
Did he kill anyone else that you know of?
You know what, Mark? I still think he killed that lady under the Harbor Bridge, but I guess once he got an attorney and all that, he didn't want to talk anymore. You know?
But Jamar Arnold, didn't he make a certain amount of publicity because he wanted to die?
That's what he wanted. When he first confessed, he said, "I want 2 things from you. Take me back to Corpus, but bring back with you a female detective." I said, "Okay." You know, I don't know why he wanted a female detective. He said, "And I don't want to fly back. I want to go in a car." No, we brought him back on the plane, but he was afraid to fly. But I suspected him of killing that lady under the Harbor Bridge. But like I said, he was booked at the county jail, and then after that, he didn't want to talk anymore. So that case is still open.
So that case is open, but am I not correct in that he actually stated that he wanted to die for a while?
Yeah, he said, "I'm going to confess, but I want the death penalty."
Right.
Yeah. But he changed his mind.
He did, but I think the courts didn't agree, and they did. He was in fact sentenced to the death sentence, right?
He was a dangerous guy, Mark.
Where was he from? Was he from here?
No, I think he was from like Kansas.
Okay.
He was here just a short time, a very short time, you know.
You were also former captain of the sheriff's department. Was your experience there similar to being a homicide detective?
I went, then Sheriff Olivares, who treated me very well, gave me the rank of captain. I was in charge of the detectives and narcotics and patrol. And right off the bat, I cleared 2 murders. One belonged to the city, one belonged to us, to the county. I had a lot of informants, you know, people who come in and give you information. I cleared two murders right off the bat.
These informants, did you pay them, or are these just people that were just coming in and informing, you know?
Well, this lady called me on the phone, actually. She said, "Look, I know you all been out here looking for, talking to people." She said, "Well, my son knows about that murder you all talking about." A lady. I said, "Well, I'm going to send a car to pick you up. You and your son, and I want to talk to him." And that's what happened. I cleared two murders with her son. One belonged to the city. In fact, Aurel Garcia worked that one. You know. And I had a good time with the sheriff's department, and I thank Sheriff Leo Olivares for giving me the opportunity to serve as a captain. And I stayed there 12 years. Eventually, I worked with Sheriff Kalen, who also treated me very nice and very professional person. You know him?
Yes, he's been on the show. Then after that, you were with the sheriff's department all those years, and then you went to you were with a police chief of Taft, Texas for a short time.
I retired from the sheriff's department, and Sheriff Kalen did a very nice farewell party for me when I left. And shortly after that, I was at a function, and this person says, "Are you Paul Rivera?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'm the city manager in Taft. So I'm looking for a police chief."
How big is Taft?
How big is it?
Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah, I think 8,000 population. Yeah. So I said, "Well," he said, "Can I call you tomorrow and let you know?" He said, "Yeah, give me a call."
How long were you over there?
Almost a year. Yeah.
I just had a bad experience in Taft, I told you about.
Tell me about it.
I just had a very bad experience in Taft, Texas, and a friend of mine had a bad experience over there. But I'll save that for another show. I don't want to put you on the line.
Well, let me tell you,
regarding that.
there's some good people there. Some good people. I had a great time. The city council people, great. The mayor, super. And they always talk about gangs and all that. I got along with everybody over there, you know. I had a good time. Yeah.
What happened?
The only bad part is that when I took office, I had 8 or 9 policemen who were brand new, Mark, out of the Del Mar school, and it's hard to train those guys. You know, 8 or 9 guys with no experience.
I would have thought they'd been trained by the academy or whatever that is, a police academy to a certain extent.
It's an academy at Del Mar, but I shouldn't say this, but actually it doesn't compare to the CCPD academy.
Okay.
You know, they had a great instructor, Arnie Garcia. Anyway, I had a hard time dealing with those brand new
Did you?
officers. You know,
Well, somebody has to
they're
train
good
you.
people. Good
So in all
officers.
these years of being a detective and being involved with before you were a detective, did you work for the police department at any time? Did you go right into being a detective?
With a PD,
Yeah.
yeah, I started out as a uniform,
Okay. How long were you in uniform?
not too long, about 6 years.
Did you ever shoot anybody?
I was a.
Did you ever shoot anybody?
What?
Ever
Yeah.
shoot anybody?
Well, I shot at this armed robber, but didn't hit him. I shot 3 times.
How is it that you happened to be where there was an armed robbery going on? They just call you and you went out to see this armed
No,
robbery?
in fact, I was a supervisor then, in charge of the blue light squad. I had 6 people under me. And
What's a blue light squad?
The DWI squad, yeah.
Oh, you said the DWI squad?
Yeah,
oh,
DWI,
DWI, okay.
yeah.
That's an exciting
And
squad.
hours were from 7
Just kidding.
p.m. to 3 p.m. And
Uh-huh.
it was my hours, 7 to 3. I had with 7 units looking for DWIs. Anyway, a robbery went down the same night that I was working, and I saw this guy running through a back street there off of SPID, and it was dark, and I hollered at him after I got out of the car, and he turned around, and I thought he had a weapon, and I fired at him 3 times. It didn't hit him, but I apprehended him. Anyway, that's the only time I fired my gun.
And it turned out that he had robbed a place, armed robbery?
Yeah, he robbed a 7-Eleven then. No, Circle K. Yeah,
How much time did you get? Do you know?
I forgot.
Probably a pretty big time.
I really don't know. We got some time.
So that's the only time when you were on the forces, et cetera, that you shot your weapon?
Yeah, I never had any desire to shoot my gun, you know.
Well, I mean, I mean, just if it came up.
Yeah.
The what are your plans now? You're gonna get another. You're gonna run for constable again?
I don't know. I'm not going to run for that position. I'm going to wait and see what happens, you know. I've been offered a couple of jobs, so I'm thinking about that, you know. I'll get about 4 retirements, Mark.
You're a quadruple dipper. You get all these. You know, I guess
Well,
being in civil service has been
You
good
know,
to you.
I get a retirement from the police department, a retirement from the sheriff's department. I get Social Security. I get a retirement from the Army, and
So
I
you
do well.
Well, we have a lot of people that you know retire from the Army, etc. How long were you in the service?
2 years.
See, I don't know. Your Korea or Vietnam era?
I was doing the Vietnam era, yes.
Did you serve in Vietnam?
No. I was fixing to be shipped to Vietnam, and I got discharged.
Mm-hmm.
But I came out with a service-connected disability. That's why I get 10% disability.
Were you, of course, you would have been more drafted. You were drafted, I guess.
Yes, I was drafted, and I got assigned to a combat unit, and I spent most of my time in the Mojave Desert. Rough.
What were you doing in the Mojave Desert during the Vietnam era? What were you doing there? Just nothing.
I don't know, but my whole division was shipping out when I was getting out. It kind of made me feel guilty because all my friends went and I didn't go. You know.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know, there were a lot of fatalities in that
I was with
war also.
I was with the 4th Infantry Division. They all went, and I wish I had gone, but.
Well, there was a lot of tragedy in that war. It
Yeah.
seemed like there were a lot of the veterans didn't come back, and the Great Issue.
Yeah. But anyway, I had a good experience in the Army. I learned a lot, you know, discipline, and I had a great career with the Corpus Christi Police Department. I had a great career as a captain with the Sheriff's Department. I still say that I thank Sheriff Larry Rivera for giving me a chance to work for him. I really appreciate the fact that Sheriff Kalen treated me with respect.
Okay. Well, Sheriff Caleb's been on. Maybe he'll have another chance to come on. This has been a former Detective Paul Rivera, former captain of the Sheriff Department, former police chief of Taft, Texas. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you,
ladies
Mark.
and gentlemen. Good night.
If I fooled with your love for me, I'd be wrong from the start. I'd be unfair to my